Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build Super Bowl 59 edition. I'm Kevin, getting ready to go over this showdown slate over at DraftKings. If you don't like showdowns or you're not familiar with them, they can be a lot of fun. You just have to hit the captain and then get a little bit different, and then I'll also get perfect plays. So yeah, it can be fun. It also can be miserable. Like if you go into Super Bowl 59 and you do not play Patrick Mahomes, he throws 4 touchdowns, you will not win a thing. That's just the way it goes. But the goal is to help you think a little bit differently, help point you to some good plays, and hopefully help you win some money. That's also what we've been doing over in Discord and just on our YouTube channel in general with NBA DFS. Definitely been helping people win some cash. You can join our Discord for free right now, and you can get updated DK core plays for NBA also for free. We do offer a paid FanDuel picks package on our Patreon, and also the DraftKings night slate picks you can get for Patreon. Very low prices for the month. So definitely take advantage of that, and also just take advantage of Discord in general. You have a lot of fun engaging people in there, looking to help you out, and obviously hoping to win themselves. That is just the nature of the beast. If anything I do here helps you out, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and come join us in Discord. All those things help us out quite a bit. And if you want to pay it forward a little bit, you can hit the super thanks below the video, or just get one of those packages in Patreon, and you can see what we're all about and also support us at the same time. All right, let's get into it. Super Bowl 59 should be a good one. It does have a 48.5 total, which feels a little bit high considering, all year long, KC wasn't like the most explosive offense. They got a little bit better at the end of the year, but they were definitely touch and go. Kind of weird for a team that lost just one game before the Week 18 finale, which was a meaningless loss. So, overall, the Chiefs were very good, and they won games, but they also won a lot of close games and beat up on teams that weren't really that challenging in theory. So KC is still a good team. They're here. They're ready to win their third Super Bowl in a row. Pretty arguable. The last 2 times they won, though, they weren't even the best team in the league. One of those games, in fact, came against these very Eagles that they'll be playing. The Eagles do look like possibly the best team in the NFL this year. I mean, just getting Saquon Barkley gave them a more explosive rushing attack than they've ever had, made them more dynamic than they've ever been. And then their defense stepped it up big time. The defense looked very, very good across the entire playoff run they had. Shut down the Packers in the first round, outlasted the Rams in the second round, and then in round 3 there, they took care of business against the Commanders, a team they know very, very well. So, quick look at the last Super Bowl between these two teams. Not completely irrelevant because a lot of the same pieces are here. The only one really that is a huge factor is Saquon Barkley, and he's obviously a massive upgrade over Miles Sanders, who had 7 carries for 16 yards in the first Super Bowl. That game was a 38-35 shootout. Jalen Hurts had 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground. Isaiah Pacheco had 76 yards and a touchdown on the other side. Kelsey was a pretty big factor with 81 yards and a touchdown for the Chiefs. Obviously, KC did add a bunch of veterans here. They have, the big one is DeAndre Hopkins. He hasn't really been a factor lately, but he could be turned to as we get going here. And then obviously they added Hollywood Brown and they drafted Xavier Worthy. So in theory, the Chiefs are a little bit more dynamic and more explosive than they were the first time these two teams met in the Super Bowl. And that's something to consider, especially when looking at a tough matchup with Philly here. So Mahomes was very good at the game, 21 for 27, 3 touchdowns through the air. I think those are the big things you need to realize. Kelsey was involved. He was effective. Mahomes was on fire. He was very good in a game they were not really supposed to win. And then on the other side, Hurts was a beast. The main benefactors were Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, 196 yards and a touchdown between them. Nobody's shocked about that. Dallas Goedert was also a factor, 6 catches for 60 yards. So, it was a very explosive game. I don't know if anybody really anticipated that. Going into this one, the total suggests that it could be again, but both these defenses are very, very capable. If you look at the matchups here, both are very good against the run. Fantasy running backs on the year, they did not have a fun time going up against either team. KC ranks number 1 against fantasy running backs in over 2024. Philly was number 2. So not a great spot for fantasy running backs. Obviously, people can break plays, things can happen, but just something to consider. I mean, the Chiefs running back situation is already a mess, so I'm definitely not super excited to go play Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. You just don't know. My guess is one of them kind of hits in this game. One of them is probably going to fall in for a touchdown or 2. But do I feel good about either of them? Of course not. On the other side, though, I mean, it's really gonna be tough to go against Saquon. That said, first meeting was fireworks. Second meeting certainly could be, but I think the defenses, collectively are a lot better than they were the first time around. All right. So the way I usually look at showdown slates, I just look at the captain ownership first. I want to see, do I want to eat the chocolates in the captain slot? And is there a way I can get different and leverage on the field? So, I mean, no issue if you want to go play Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he's going to offer the same upside that he did a couple of years ago. The Eagles defense has been very good. Let's see, actually, just by the numbers, looking at quarterbacks. So KC has been middle of the pack against quarterbacks, but the Eagles have been the 5th best defense against fantasy quarterbacks on the year. So something I definitely want to pay mind to. Also, here's the other thing. If we want to look at narratives, the Eagles definitely want to avenge that loss in general, sure. And they also want to win another Super Bowl. Whereas winning 2 Super Bowls, let alone in a row, is incredibly difficult. Winning 3 has never been done. So if you want to just bet against history, or bet in favor of what history has shown us so far, maybe not rolling with the Chiefs makes a lot of sense here. But if you think the Chiefs are going to do well and you just think the NFL is rigged and it's just all about Mahomes and KC, fire up Mahomes, no problem. I will be underweight. He's going to be the chalkiest captain. I'm not going to fade him if I'm doing a lot of lineups, but I would probably play a lot of them more in the flex. But I personally really like the idea of going underweight on Mahomes in general and kind of siding with Philly in this game. And I think the Eagles are going to win. I think a 3-peat is just really, really tough to pull off. And the Eagles are incredibly dynamic, more so than they were the last time they met, and their defense is a lot better. So that's just my general strategy going into this. So right away, if Mahomes is the chalkiest captain, I am going underweight for sure. Don't mind him in the flex, though. And if you're doing 150 lineups or maxing a 20, lineup contest or something, certainly get a little bit of exposure to Mahomes still, because you don't want to be caught, holding the bag. Jalen Hurts, though, second most owned. I have no problem playing Jalen Hurts. I love him in this spot. He smashed against the Chiefs last time. In particular, Chiefs are middle of the road, right, against fantasy quarterbacks, but they especially struggled against mobile quarterbacks. The Chiefs gave up the 6th most rushing yards to quarterbacks on the year, as well as 4 touchdowns on the ground. It's just not really the best spot for them. So I think Hurts could have a ton of success here. He is $600 more expensive than Mahomes, so perhaps that price helps lower his ownership a little bit as well. If I'm not captaining Hurts, I definitely want him in the flex, but I certainly would want to go over the field in the captain. Saquon Barkley, he is the most expensive play at $18K in the captain slot and the 3rd highest owned captain. So if he's only going to garner the 3rd most ownership, I will be very over the field on Saquon. He and Hurts right now stand out as my 2 favorite plays from a chalky perspective. Saquon, the matchup is terrible, no doubt about it. The matchup is not good, but Saquon is the type of guy who can defy matchups for sure. There's just no real limit to his ceiling. And I mean, that guy ran for 2,000 yards, a ton of touchdowns. He had 2 games where he could have gone absolutely nuclear. And he already did kind of he had 1 game where he had over 200 yards and he sat the 4th quarter. So just massive ceiling and just so much narrative going into this, coming over from the Giants, coming to the Eagles, helping the Eagles seal the deal here. I think Saquon's going to have a big game. If you look back at other matchups here in the playoffs in particular, Joe Mixon had success, 88 yards and a touchdown against the Bills. James Cook got bottled up, but he still had 2 touchdowns. I really think even if Saquon gets, contained here, which I really don't think he will, I think he's so dynamic and explosive and has such a good role that I think he's going to hit kind of no matter what. The only angle here, though, he is very expensive, so it might make a little bit of sense if you're doing a lot of lineups to just get him in the flex and see if you can build a better lineup without committing $18,000 in salary to him at DraftKings. Next up is A.J. Brown, 4th highest owned guy here. He was pretty good against the Chiefs the last time he faced them. Matchup-wise, KC has been a middle of the road defense against fantasy wide receivers. So it's not a matchup I really am afraid of. I would imagine AJ Brown would like to step up and have an even better game than he had in the previous Super Bowl. So I think coming in the 4th most ownership and cheaper than the other captains above him, I think he's a really interesting captain play. So I like him quite a bit. The Eagles have been really tough on wide receivers. So all the KC wide receivers, unless you're full stacking Mahomes and captaining Mahomes and flip-flopping that a little bit, I'm not like super excited to play those guys. I think like Xavier Worthy's interesting because he could really just pop off in one play. I mean, he has been good. Look at this run here in the playoffs alone, 22 fantasy points against the Bills. I mean, he was kind of quiet against Houston, but then 22, 20, 19 in his previous 3 games before the playoffs started. So he's been great. I don't have a problem with him. Kind of more of a gadget guy, though. It's just tough to get him the ball sometimes. But at 12K, I think as the 5th highest owned guy here, he is an interesting captain. Kelsey is another guy that obviously is going to be in play because he's Kelsey and it's the Super Bowl. He did smash in this matchup last time they played in the Super Bowl, but that's a lot of red right there if you're looking at the game log that I'm showing you on screen. I mean, wasn't good against the Bills, popped off against the Texans. This is a bad matchup by the numbers, 100%. The Eagles are number 2 against fantasy tight ends on the year. So I'm not going to say Kelsey's going to get completely shut down here, but that did happen against the Bills, and it could happen here. It is not a soft matchup. It's not like he's cheap. I do like that he's like the 6th highest owned captain, though. So if you want to get Kelsey at like kind of somewhat discounted, ownership to, in a sense, I think that's interesting. So I might be a little bit overweight on him, but in general, I think this is a really tough matchup. So I think Kelsey is probably best reserved as a flex play on this slate. The first guy that I'm really excited to play is going to be Dallas Goedert, though. I think KC does still have a really good defense, so it's very possible that they do, somewhat, as much as you really can, contain Barkley and like keep him from just like popping off. So I think the volume and the overall like role and the touchdown equity keeps Saquon as a stud play on this slate. But I think you're going to want to look for other ways to get exposure to the Eagles offense. It's going to get you different. One of those ways is going to be Goddard in the captain. I love him as a flex play if you just want to play him there, but he looks really good at 8.7K and coming as a 7th most owned guy here. The Chiefs are not good against tight ends. They are bottom 5 against fantasy tight ends on the year. They've given up the most receiving yards to the position over the 2024 regular season. So no qualms about firing up him. I mean, like against the Texans, Dalton Schultz had 4 catches for 63 yards. I can't really put much stock in what the Bills tight ends do because Dalton Kincaid was basically a ghost in that game. But Dawson Knox is the backup for Buffalo, and he had 4 catches for 40 yards. So it is a good matchup. And Goddard is, he's pretty advantageous when anytime he faces a good matchup, he tends to kind of excel. So I love Goddard as a fairly low owned captain play. And honestly, the ownership feels a little bit high. I wouldn't be surprised if it's considerably lower. I think AJ Brown's ceiling makes him more appealing compared to Devontae Smith, but Devontae Smith excelled in this matchup last time they played in the Super Bowl, and he'll be way lower owned. So I think Devontae is a fine contrarian captain and a perfectly fine flex play as well. Funny thing is, I didn't even pull up my DraftKings account, so I could also look at just some of these other pieces while I'm looking here. Let's see. But anyways, as we keep going, Hollywood Brown, it's tough to trust Hollywood Brown, man. They even did get him going 5 targets last time 2 weeks ago against the Bills, and he still only got 6.5 fantasy points. So definitely a great deep ball guy. Nice discounted price at 8.1K. I think he's more suitable in the flex, but certainly a nice GPP captain play just because we know he does have a ceiling historically. I mean, 1 or 2 shots down the field, if it hits, Hollywood Brown could completely nuke the slate, no doubt about it. I don't want to tell you not to play Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. Like I said, one of them is probably going to fall in the end zone once or twice, and they could end up breaking the slate if that does happen. But really, Eagles' run defense is very good, and these guys are sharing the workload. Right now, Isaiah Pacheco looks broken, man. I mean, like, it's hard to come back from a broken leg, let alone in the same season. So he just has not been good. Don't think I'd really want to play him at that price. I think if I'm going to play a Chiefs running back, it's going to be Kareem. He's been pretty stable, but he's not very explosive. It's not a good matchup, and Pacheco still exists. So, I mean, I don't feel great about it. I think if you're going to play a KC running back, though, he is your guy. Okay, and then we have like the defenses. Not really interested in captaining defenses in the game with a 48.5 total. So Eagles and Chiefs are reserved for flex only, in my opinion. They both are good, capable defenses. It's just, Eagles are facing a very experienced offense. It's not fun to fully bet against Mahomes by captaining the Philly defense. I don't think he's going to get completely obliterated here necessarily. And on the other side, I mean, Saquon, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, I'm not betting that hard on the Chiefs in the captain. So I think they're okay flex tries because they're not going to be super owned, but I wouldn't captain them. Same with Harrison Butker and Jake Elliott. Very fine, safe flex plays. But I wouldn't captain the kickers. I think this is going to be a game with some points, but it's not going to be a game where I don't think it's going to be a game where we're just, kicking 4 or 5 field goals on either side, really. As far as punts go that look appealing for captain, it's tough. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster was involved against the Bills. He had 8 fantasy points. I think him, Justin Watson, and at this point, even DeAndre Hopkins, and you can kind of throw Jahan Dotson in there on the Eagles side. These guys are all just total shots in the dark. One of them probably will be okay. Same with Noah Gray. Do any of them really stand out as like, oh, I have to play these guys? Not really. I think Noah Gray would be the most compelling at 4.2K just because he has been involved in the past. I mean, even with Kelsey there, these games came in the regular season when Kelsey was, supposedly still a key factor in their passing game, and he still produced. So it's just Mahomes does this in every game. There's one dude who's not on your radar who's just going to randomly get like 60 to 80 yards and or a touchdown. You don't know if it's going to be Justin Watson. You don't know if it's going to be Nuke or Noah Gray or P. Ryan. Like, you just don't know. So I didn't really mention P. Ryan, but same deal here. If Casey falls behind, P. Ryan could be a factor in the passing game. It's just like, do you feel great about any of these guys? No. I think the guy I would feel the best about based off of recent productivity and price would be Juju at 3K. But let me kick it to flex because I don't really want to captain Juju. I kind of went over the guys I really would be interested in captaining. So if we look at flex ownership, like Kareem Hunt feels a little bit low at 23%. Hollywood, that looks like a good flex play for sure. And as we go down, like Noah Gray in the flex, low ownership, Juju at 14%. I don't mind that at all. And DeAndre Hopkins, he has not been good, but I still think DeAndre Hopkins could end up getting a little bit more work. It's his first Super Bowl he's ever played in. Obviously, the Chiefs want to win, and they want to lean on the veteran experience and leadership and stuff. So I would not be totally shocked if he got a little bit more work. That said, against the Bills, he wasn't really out there that much. So he is a risky play for sure. But overall, I think my overall strategy is going to be a little bit light on Mahomes. I might slide Barkley a little bit more to the flex than I probably feel comfortable doing. And I'm going to be overweight on guys like Goddard and Devontae Smith, and maybe take a couple shots on Kareem Hunt and Hollywood Brown in the captain slot. I think this game is definitely going to side with Philly. The Chiefs are favored, but the Eagles just feel like the more dynamic and explosive offense. They feel like they have the better defense, and I would not be shocked if they end this little dynasty run here, at least temporarily, and get to win on Super Bowl Sunday. All right, that does it for me. Hopefully that helps you out. And if it does, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. We do NBA DFS every day. We're going to be doing MLB DFS. And of course, when NFL rolls back around, maybe we'll even dabble in other things too. I mean, I play a little bit of everything, but we will look to possibly help out with UFL DFS and other things as well. Maybe even MMA DFS because I play every week. But yeah, so hopefully this helps you out. If it does, subscribe and like, and also come join us in Discord and talk shop with everybody in there. Thanks for watching and good luck.